Hey, I'm Cheryl Sutherland, and I'm a producer for the Decibel. But this week, I'm filling in for Menaka. Canada's housing market is finally starting to cool off, but the rental market is red hot. That's both in demand and in cost. On average, the price to rent a one-bedroom apartment across the country is up almost 14% since the start of the year. Some cities are seeing even more than that. When demand is soaring, rental scammers swoop in.
There's a lot of competition, and people are desperate to move out. People are vulnerable, and because of that desperation, that's what the scammers take advantage of.
The Globe's Patrick Egwu has been looking into this because he was almost a victim of a rental scam himself. He'll tell us how these scams work, why they're on the rise, and the red flags you should be looking out for when looking for an apartment. This is The Decibel. Patrick, thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so let's start with the basics here.
Yeah.
How exactly does a rental scam work?
It works in different ways. So they go up on rental websites and they download the photos, that they see on this rental website, and they repost on Craigslist, for example, or Facebook Marketplace, or Kijiji, for example, and, put up the details, the same descriptions and everything, and, ask you to make payments up front. And it looks like a great deal and something you haven't seen before, and you jump on it.
So basically, the ad goes up on these rental listing places, like even Facebook Marketplace.
Craigslist. And
they ask for money before you've even seen the place.
Before you even view the apartment.
And then they take your money, basically.
Yeah, that's the goal. Whatever they're doing is just to take your money.
You're personally invested in this story because you yourself were almost a victim of a rental scam. What happened?
Quite a funny story. So I was nearly a victim. Back in April, I needed to move out of my old place. And I came across this property, listed on one of the rental websites. And it looked too good to be true. And
what did it look like? Tell me, describe what it looked like to you.
So it's a townhouse east of Toronto, and it's a one-bed apartment. I will have my own private bedroom, private bath, and so the kitchen I will be sharing with another tenant in the house, and just like two people, sharing a large space for $879.
And this is in Toronto.
In Toronto.
That price right there is very low.
And, when I saw it, I was kind of attracted because all the, properties I've been saying were in the region of $1,200, $1,400. And when I saw that, I was like, wow, this is a good deal.
Yeah.
I got interested. I saw the phone number of the landlord. I called. And, he started patronizing me, telling me that I needed to make payments. I needed to make deposits, that lots of people have been calling. And he likes the way I talk. And, I sounded like a nice guy. I wouldn't give him problems and all sort of that. And
Did you feel pressure when he was doing that? Like, did you feel like you should put the money in? Because, I guess when you're looking for an apartment or looking for a place to live, that can be a stressful time, right? So when he was kind of flattering you, were you like, oh my goodness, I should maybe give this guy some money?
Looking for an apartment in Toronto was hectic, stressful. I've lived in Johannesburg in South Africa. And when I wanted to change apartment, I got a new apartment in 3 days.
Okay.
But it took me close to a month, to find a place in Toronto. So
you must have been sweating.
It was very stressful. And, I've been looking for the past 2 weeks. So when I saw that, I was like, this is the last bus stop. This is the end for me. I need to make payments and all that. But when he started, flattering me, my instincts, were very sharp. I kind of did my own private investigation, kind of did my own independent research. So I went online to check the apartment, and I found the real estate company that listed it. I called them, and they told me the apartment was sold last year. Yeah, was sold last year. So the landlord, he sent me some, account details for me to make e-transfer. So the name on the account is actually different from the name of the landlord. And I was like, you know what? That's the end for me. I'm not going to make payments.
How common are these scams?
So rental scams, have increased during the pandemic. And for example, the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center reported that there's been an increase, during the pandemic. And, between 2017 to 2019, victims lost, more than $1.4 million here in Canada. And apart from that, since January this year, the Better Business Bureau, which is a non-profit also tracking rental scams, reported a 160% increase in consumer losses, to rental scams compared to the same period last year.
And what kind of payments do scammers usually ask for?
So most of them would normally ask for wire transfers or payments in Bitcoin that, are very difficult to trace, so that, once you make the payment, it's gone and your bank can't trace it. Nobody can trace it. And that's it.
Who tends to be victims of rental scams?
Anyone can be a victim of a rental scam. But people who tend to be, victims are newcomers to Canada, right. International students who, are getting ready to return to Canada and begin their classes.
Why is it that an international student would be more prone to getting victimized by this type of scam?
As an international student, you are new to the environment. You don't know where to go to. You don't even know how to report to the police. You don't know how the system works. So you end up just taking your loss and, going away with it. So, for example, if I had fallen a victim to the scammer who posted those ads, I don't know what I would have done, because, I was kind of new here. So I don't know how I would have reported it. And personally, I like being private, sort of. I'm not sure if I'm going to post it on Twitter to say, okay, I've been scammed, or maybe go to the police for them to help me. Yeah,
so international students are at a disadvantage, but also people who just don't know the market, right? Like, as you said, anyone could really be a victim of this scam. And you mentioned something there that there's a bit of shame, right? Like you said for yourself that
I wouldn't have reported. Yeah, it could be very embarrassing. So I reached out to a couple of people, and I actually found someone who was a victim last year, but he said he wasn't comfortable talking about it, and, that it's more like, apart from being embarrassing, that it's kind of digging up old wounds that he just, wants to take his loss and go away like that. But I ended up, I found another victim that was 3 years ago in 2019. So Ellen, that's her name. So she was a student. At that point, she was a student at the University of Waterloo, and she needed to find a place in downtown Toronto for her internship during the summer. So she went to Facebook Marketplace and found a lady who made a post about an apartment. She posted everything, photos, videos about the apartment. So she sent her a DM, indicating interest that she wants to rent. And the lady, Morena, she responded and said, yeah, fine, you could make a deposit, and I could secure the apartment for you, and nobody has taken it, nobody has made a payment. So Ellen ended up making payments, about $3,000. So she made the payment, traveled home to see her family. So when she came back, she was at the airport and sent a message to this Morena that she was at the airport and she's ready to come view the apartment. And Morena didn't respond to the message. So she ended up blocking her on Instagram and Facebook. And so
Morena
she couldn't reach
ended
her.
up blocking Ellen on Instagram
blocking
and Facebook.
Ellen, who has made the payment.
That would have been kind of stressful, right? If you're you thinking you're going to see your apartment, and this person blocks you.
You thought you've secured your apartment, you've made payments, and so she decided to go view the apartment.
Ellen went to go to see the actual, went to the address.
Yeah, exactly. So she went to the address, and when she got there, she met a security guy who told her that she's not the only one who has been coming around, that, lots of people have been coming around. So meaning that, Morena has been scamming people with the same apartment, with the same photos, with the same videos, with the same address of the apartment. And that was it. And that was how they lost their money, about 10 of them.
Yeah. Wow, 10 people in total.
Yeah, about 10 of them. So what they did was that they ended up reporting to the police, filing a report with the police, and the police took it up, but couldn't find Morena. She fled the country, and she hasn't been found up till now, and the victims haven't recovered their money.
I was going to ask you that. So I guess that means the victims are just left with nothing.
Nothing.
Okay, Patrick, let's broaden this out a bit, because right now we're living in a time with high inflation, and we're seeing prices creeping up basically in every corner of our lives. What's going on in the rental market right now?
I can say that the rental market is very hot at the moment, and we are seeing, rising inflation. We are seeing rising interest rates. All this have caused, a spike in the rental market, and we are seeing, huge competition, and with little vacancies for renters, to jump on. The average rent for a 2-bedroom apartment in Toronto is now over $3,000.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's more like more than 20% increase.
From last year?
Yeah, from last year.
Wow.
And for example, when renters, when they see an apartment with, a cheap price, they tend to jump on it.
People are looking for good deals right now, especially with everything up so high.
And people are desperate to move out or to find a place. And because of that desperation, that's what the scammers take advantage of.
Can you help me connect this? Because you said that, the market and the rental market is red hot right now. And it has to do with these factors that we're seeing all over, that the central bank is raising interest rates, inflation.
Exactly. Yeah.
Why is it that these factors are figuring into people jumping into the rental market more?
I mean, when the interest rates are high,
yes,
and when people can't afford to buy a home, they end up, finding a place to rent. Just to live because of the rising interest rate.
Right.
Since I can't afford to buy a home or to pay a down payment because of the rising interest rates, I can just find a place to stay for the time being while I raise money to find my own place.
Right. So the idea is that some people that were thinking about buying a house, maybe now because of interest rates are so high, they're priced out of getting into the market in the first place and are going to the rental market.
That's the simple explanation.
Okay. So we know the market right now is ripe for scammers. Now it's August, so lots of students are probably thinking about moving ahead of school. And then on top of that, like we talked about, the rental market is tight because the central bank's interest rate hikes is pricing people out of the housing market. Yeah. So what are the red flags people should be looking out for?
So the first for me is when a landlord asks you to make deposits upfront, so that's the number one for me. Never make payments without viewing the place, without seeing the landlord you're dealing with, and not just speaking over the phone or chatting on Facebook or Instagram. You need to go there, view the place, sign the lease.
What if you can't go there yourself? Is there something else you could do?
Find someone who can go on your behalf. I think that's the best thing to do instead of making payments, blind payments, like I would say, without actually knowing what you're paying for. Another one again is when the property you want to rent feels too good to be true. A 1-bed apartment, for example, is being offered for like $1,000. That's in Toronto, for example. That's just a red flag. I don't think you can find it anywhere here in Toronto. Another one again is when the photo of the apartment looks too generic. So that's why it is important for you as a renter to do your own independent search. Take the photo online, upload it and see what you can find. If you find it in another place or maybe in another country, that's a red flag. And if the landlord is making excuses to show you the apartment, that he's out of town, for example, or that he lost a relative and he's gone for the funeral, that's a red flag. Never make payments until you are there to view the apartment.
Okay, those are some really good tips, Patrick, and people to be watching out for.
Yeah.
I want to bring it back to you because we started talking about your story, about you almost getting scammed, but what happened in the end? Did you end up actually finding an apartment?
Yeah, of course I did. And I think a week after...
I'm glad you have a place to live.
Yeah, yeah, I did. It would have been worse. And so a week after the whole ordeal with the so-called landlord, I found a place and I'm currently living there.
Great news for you.
Yeah.
And great news for the Globe because you now can stay here and work.
Exactly. Thank you.
Patrick, thanks so much for being our guest today.
Thank you very much for having me.
That's it for today. I'm Cheryl Sutherland. Menaka Remen-Wilms is our host. Our summer producer is Zara Kazemi. Our producers are Madeline White, me, Cheryl Sutherland, and Rachel Levy-McLaughlin. David Crosby edits the show. Kasia Mihailovich is our senior producer. And Angela Pacenza is our executive editor. Thanks so much for listening.